loves! Today I'm here to share with you guys my birth story. I know some of you guys have been waiting for a while because it has been 6 weeks, so Caris is now 6 weeks old, and yeah, I finally have time to sit down and finally share my birth story with you guys. So as per usual, I wrote down everything in my baby book here. This book has so many notes from when I was first pregnant and everything, so I am gonna save this for Caris in the future if she ever wants to read how my pregnancy went and how her birth story went and everything. So I think it's really cool that she can either read it or just watch it on YouTube. So I'm just gonna read it to you guys like I'm reading to you a story, because sometimes if I just talk to the camera, I like kind of leave things out. So I'm just gonna read to you guys what I wrote down here. So my birth story, I was 37 weeks and 1 day, and it was April 10th, 2015. So Caris was born and she arrived 2 weeks and 6 days early. It was a cloudy morning and Caris arrived on April 10th, 2015 at 9:01 a.m. and it was a Friday. She weighed 6 pounds, 3 ounces and measured 46 centimeters long. Everything happened really fast and it was a total whirlwind. It happened so fast that Al and I didn't even think about vlogging the whole, labor experience and everything until my sister actually vlogged our birthing experience. If you guys watch my vlogs, then you already seen a few clips of that, but we were just so busy with everything that we didn't even think to vlog it. So I'm just gonna read to you guys a story and you guys can just picture in your head of how my birth story went. Flashbacking to a day ahead of when Caris was born. So it was April 9th, 2015. This was the Thursday. So I was 37 weeks pregnant and I had my OB appointment, and that morning I just changed my clothes to go out and suddenly I felt something really wet in my underwear. It was like a bunch of white mucus filled my underwear and it was very wet. TMI, I know. And then I had to change it because, I couldn't go out with such a wet underwear. And then after we went to my OB appointment and my doctor said it could possibly be the mucus plug that fell out and that Caris was going to arrive any day now. And when he told me that, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm like, any day. Could it be today? Could it be tomorrow? It's really vague and everything. So he just said it's gonna be any day, so very, very soon. And then I felt fine and normal and went about on with my day that day. Okay, so now we are on April 10th, 2015. This is early Friday morning, which was 1:30 a.m. I woke up and went to the toilet and peed. I wiped my bum and I saw more mucus, not as much as before, but this time it was tinged with a bit of blood. I felt fine and normal, and then I went back to bed, and at that point I couldn't think of anything else, so it was just it ran in my head and I just couldn't think of anything else. So it bugged me so much that I had to wake up Alan. Alan is my husband. And then I told him what had just happened to me, and then Alan was a bit worried, so he told me to call the hospital, and I said maybe we will wait it out and then I'll call later. And then we went back to bed, and about 15 minutes later, after going back to bed, I felt a sudden gush of water that came out. It wasn't that much water, or it wasn't that much water to the point where I thought, oh my gosh, my water broke or something. It's probably a cupful, so it's not too much. And luckily I had towels underneath me because that would have been a total mess. And at that point I called the hospital to ask if that was my water that broke and if I should come in or anything, because I didn't know, because this is my first time, I didn't know if that was my water that broke or what the heck just happened, right? So I still felt normal and no contractions, no pain at that point. And the hospital said to come in so they can check and monitor me and so forth. So Al and I woke up, ate instant noodles, and because we were so hungry and we didn't know how long we were going to be at the hospital for, so we just ate just in case we were going to be there for a long time. And afterwards we just washed up and headed to the hospital. So it's still early Friday morning, April 10th, 2015 at 4 a.m. now. We checked into the hospital and I went into the examination room. I wore a pad to the hospital because I was having some bleeding. It was very, very light. It's kind of like probably the last few days of your regular period. And the nurse told me to do a urine sample and also give her a pad sample. So whatever the pad that I was wearing, she had to use it as a sample. And she tested it. The results were inconclusive that my water broke, so they didn't know if my water had broke at home or not because that test was inconclusive. And she told me to stick around for another hour or so to do another check just to make sure that my water broke. And then I laid back down onto the bed and waited while Alan sat right beside me to be a supportive husband, of course. I love him so much. And at this point, I was having cramps. It's like, it probably feels like your regular period cramps. It was it was bearable and it didn't hurt at all. So now it's 5 a.m., April 10th, 2015. Another nurse came by to do a swab test. The swab test is like your regular pap test that you go in every year at your doctor's. And during that time, more of my water broke, and the test came back positive that it was my water that broke at home. So now it is 6 a.m. They started me on the IV because I tested positive for strep group B, which is the GBS, and that IV just prevents infection to Caris when I deliver her. And the IV was a bit painful and uncomfortable at first. I have got to admit it was pretty painful because I still have little scars here. I don't know if you guys can tell, one there and one there of the IV, but it was painful going in. But after a while, it just felt like normal. There's nothing there. And the cramps got just a teeny bit more uncomfortable, but still like period cramps, and so it was still bearable. 6:30 a.m. the doctor came back to check my dilation to see if I was going into labor, and I was only 1.5 centimeters dilated at that time. She confirmed that I was going into labor, and at this point it was pretty much a waiting game. So after she left, I called my parents and spoke to my mom to let her know what was going on. And I stayed on the phone with her for about 20 minutes because, you know, it's my first pregnancy, my first like going into labor experience, and I was just, you know, filled with so many emotions. And talking to my mom calmed me down. She told me not to worry and I can do it. And it was honestly, like, talking to her, it was just a great mental support, and I felt very soothed by her because I've known she's been through this process 5 times, so of course I trust her judgment and everything. So it was just really nice to talk to her because it kind of calmed me down. And I remember I cried on the phone because I was feeling very overwhelmed that everything was pretty much in action and happening so fast and so unexpectedly, because I just didn't know what the heck was going on because this is my first time, like I said. And she just calmed me down so well, and I just love her so much. So I love you, Mom, if you're watching this. So now it's currently 7 a.m. My cramps getting a bit stronger and longer and a bit uncomfortable but still bearable. The pain was pretty much right underneath my belly button, and the pain was only in front. I didn't feel any pain on my back whatsoever. So that was a good thing, I guess. So now it is 7:30 a.m. My cramps, pretty much contractions now, are getting more intense and super painful, and they were pretty much 5 minutes apart and lasted a minute each, and they were coming faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. And I told Alan at that point at 7:30 a.m. I told him to tell the nurse that I need something to help with the pain because it was starting to get like so uncomfortable and I just couldn't stand it anymore. It was unbearable. If I were to describe to you guys the contraction pains, it feels like a mountain growing inside of you. So with each contraction, it feels like this in your tummy. Like just imagine there's like a mountain growing in your tummy. It feels like that. It just feels like so sharp. And yeah, like I said, it feels like a mountain of pain growing and sharpening in my stomach. And honestly, it's undescribable how painful it is, and I will never forget how painful it was. It's still in my brain, and I don't know 5 or 10 years from now if I'll still remember it, but this day I still remember it so clearly. It's just, if you went through it, then you know what I'm talking about, but if you haven't yet, then you will soon find out. It's just unbearable. And the nurse said she will be the nurse said she will be right with me as soon as she was finished with the other patient to check for me for my pain medicine. And at this point, she told me to stand up from the bed and try walking around. And I didn't want to because I was in so much pain, and the last thing I wanted to do was walk around. And I listened to her though, and I did for a little bit, for about 10 minutes, and I couldn't stand it anymore because the pain was getting so strong and immense. And I remember feeling very hot and very sweaty right when I plopped right back on the bed. I was just in so much pain. I was just like, I felt like I worked out for like a million hours. And Alan after I went back on the bed, Alan went to ask for help and pain medicine again because the nurse still hadn't came back to my room. And the nurse was still busy and took forever to come. And when you're in pain and you're just waiting and waiting, it feels like you're waiting a whole entire day because she took forever. And she came back probably 45 minutes later. And honestly, I think she probably thought that since it's my first pregnancy, and usually with your first pregnancy, your labor and delivery is like, you know, probably 12 or 15 hours or even longer than that. So she probably thought, since this is my first pregnancy, I'm just probably experiencing like the period cramp pains, but little did she know it wasn't. And let's see here. She probably thought since it's my first pregnancy that this pain I was feeling was normal and bearable, so she took her time. So Alan tried to console me during this time, but honestly, all I wanted from him was to be there and just shut it. Because usually the husband can't really do anything when you're in pain. All they can do is just console you and everything, but honestly, I just wanted him in the room and just to shh. That's all I wanted from him. And there was nothing he can really do, but he was an amazing support husband person to be with me as well. So thank you. So now it's currently 8:15 a.m. The nurse finally came and she did a manual check before she can get the doctors to come administer any pain medication like morphine, stuff like that. And she checked and said, I am quite dilated. So she got another nurse to come back into the room and double check me, and the second nurse confirmed that yes, I was very dilated at this point. I was 9.5 centimeters dilated at this point. So when you're about to give birth, it's 10 centimeters. So I was 0.5 centimeters from giving birth. So you guys can understand how much pain I was in without any drugs. And I was just, oh my, like when they told me I was 9.5 centimeters dilated, I was just like, my mind was going crazy because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is happening right now without anything. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, that pain that I was feeling is pretty much labor pains. Like, I am about to deliver my baby. The nurse said, resist the urge to push because we have to wait for my delivery doctor to get here or to get there. And they said they were going to get the delivery room ready, and as soon as I was told that I was going into labor to deliver, the first thing that came out of my mouth was, where is my epidural? Like, I need my epidural because my pain tolerance isn't that high. I am such a wimp. I needed the epidural because, you know, I just needed it. And the nurse clearly said, it's a little too late for that, honey. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just like, because my birth plan and my birth wishes was I need epidural because I just don't want to feel that pain. And and Alan knew that as well. So he asked if there was anything else they can give me, and the nurse said only thing was gas, and that's pretty much it. And at this point, the pain was coming non-stop, and contractions were so incredible and extremely painful, like so much pain. This is probably the worst pain of my entire life. And if you guys can think about it, from when I got in, when they checked me, I was 1.5 centimeters dilated all the way to 9.5 centimeters dilated in just 4 hours. Is that not crazy or what? It just blows my mind. And this is my first pregnancy as well. So it happened so fast, and I just can't believe for my first baby, it was only 4 hours of like in labor. I'm just like so crazy. And the funny thing is, my mom actually warned me, because my mom had 5 babies already, and she said every time she had girls, the labor was so fast, so quick. And I'm just like, yeah, right. And then little did I know, I inherited her genes, and yes, the labor was so now fast. It is currently 8:30 a.m. 2 nurses rolled me into the delivery room, and I kept my eyes closed the entire time. I was in way too much pain. I remember calling out for Alan to make sure he was with me. And we got into the delivery room. The nurse gave me the gas tube to suck in the gas, and she told me to not push, even if I feel like I want to, because the doctor was still not there yet. Every time I sucked in the gas, so I sucked in the gas like this, it was the most pain I was ever in, because the contractions were still going. The gas didn't hit me or work until 5 to 10 minutes later of using it. It made my head very cloudy, and I felt very loopy, and I still felt every contraction though, because it's just gas, it's not any drugs or anything. And I remember my eyes were closed, my face all scrunched up, and one hand holding Ellen's hand and the other holding the gas tube. So basically I breathed in the gas, and then I took a big breath out. I remember this is the sound I made. I remember that clearly, because I just needed it. And I was yelling and screaming as quiet as I possibly can, of course, but honestly, I didn't care at that point, because I was in so much pain. I didn't really care about people hearing me screaming or anything. And yeah, because at that point, you honestly really don't care. 8:40 a.m. My parents and my sister arrived into my delivery room, and it was great having them there for more support, because Alan is very supportive as well. But when you have like your entire family or most of your family there, it helps really much as well. Like I heard my mom talking to me in the background, I heard my sister, I heard my dad. So it was very like mentally supportive. So when they were there, it just kind of relieved me a little bit, even though I was in so much pain. When they were there, it just gave me even more power to, you know, get through this. So now it's currently 8:45 a.m. The doctor finally showed up and says he sees the hair on Caris's head popping out, and he says he will be right back so he can change into his delivery clothes. And at this point, I don't remember this. Alan told me this is what happened, because I was in so much pain. I was loopy from the gas, and I just didn't remember a thing. So the doctor showed up finally, and now it's currently 8:55 a.m. The doctor came back and told me I was ready to push. So I pushed the first time. I remember my legs were up on that little kind of, what's that thing called? I don't know, the footrest. 2 of my legs up there, and I pushed the first time. Actually, my head was like this. I pushed like this, and it was kind of, I didn't really push much, because I don't know, it's my first time, and I didn't know if I was doing it right or not. And the baby wasn't out yet, of course. And I remember holding Alan's hand and my other hand holding the nurse's hand. At this point, the gas was gone already, and my parents and my sister was in the back watching in the room. And I remember pushing a second time, and this time I put my head towards my chest and I pushed everything out, like pushed with all my might. And during that time, the doctor was just putting on his glove, and he didn't even have his glove on yet, and I pushed a third time, and Caris came flying right out like pretty much a rocket. And I remember in the video, I'm not going to show you guys because it's too kind of graphic. I remember in the video my fluids went all on the doctor's shirt, and he didn't even have his glove on, and Caris just flew out like a rocket. It was just like a bomb. Like 1 push, 2 push, 3 push, and she was out. It was so fast and crazy, and honestly it was very uncontrolled that I did have a 3rd degree tear.
I can't look, honey. Yeah, it's okay. That's called pushing this kid out. Oh, beautiful. Boy, Linda, that's pushing.
Good job. I got 901.
Oh, so cute. Look, I got a dry towel for you.
Thank you. Do you see her?
Want to see? Good pushing, Linda.
So I can't quite pull her up. She's got a little bit of a short cord, okay?
Thank you.
I'll scoop her for you.
Congratulations! So Caris arrived into this world at 9:01 a.m. on April 10th, 2015. And she did not cry right away when she came out. Her umbilical cord was very short, so the doctor couldn't pull her out enough for him to place her on my chest. So she had a very short umbilical cord, so she pretty much was placed right on my belly button area. And it was kind of like sad in a way, because obviously when you first give birth to your baby, you want to see how she looks like, you want to see how she is and everything, and I couldn't really see that because her umbilical cord was so short. So at that point, Alan got the scissors from the doctor and he cut the umbilical cord, and that was a very special moment because, you know, the father cutting the umbilical cord is kind of like a traditional thing in a way. So I was happy that Alan did that. And I remember him saying that the umbilical cord was so thick, and when he cut it, you know, there's blood that gushed out, which is kind of gross, but he's like, it was a little bit hard and rubbery to cut. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And afterwards they cleaned Caris up, and I finally saw her for the first time because they put her on my chest. And honestly, it was love at first sight. I was like seriously so in love with her. Just I couldn't not stare at anything else. I was just staring at her for the longest time. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my baby girl. Like, for 9 months she was in my belly. I had no idea what she looked like, and you know, I'm just staring at her like I was in so much love. Like, I've never felt that much love for a person ever. Like, it was so delicious. I remember her being so small, and she looked so precious and so beautiful, and until this day, I still cannot believe she is pretty much all mine. It's just so amazing. And that is pretty much my birth story. My labor was only 4 hours, which is so crazy. It happened so fast. And the delivery was really uncontrolled, like I mentioned before. It just snap of a finger, it just happened like that. And it was just very... nobody can control anything, so she just came plopping right out. And the pain and experience was truly unforgettable, and I cannot believe I am a mommy and Alan and I are finally parents. And it's so crazy, within like a few little pushes your whole entire world changes, your whole entire life changes. It's just so, life is just so crazy. Like, that is just within a few pushes, Alan and my life just changed forever. So that's pretty much it for my birth story. I just want to say thank you guys for being on my pregnancy journey, and I cannot wait to share with you guys our new life with Caris, now in it. And I cannot wait to share with you guys how she grows up and every little milestone she has. I'm just super excited to share it with you guys. And Al and I are just so excited to have this new life with our new baby girl, our daughter. And we're pretty much a little family of 3 now. So that is pretty much my birth story. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I guess we will catch you guys on our vlogs, and of course you get to see little baby Caris as well, and you guys probably already seen her. And yeah, that's my birth story. It's just, I just don't know how to end this birth story video, because it's just like, I can just remember that day so clearly and everything, and it just happened so fast, and I will never forget it. It's just a very deep memory that I will have, and I will cherish everything from my first finding out I was pregnant, to telling Ellen that I was pregnant, to my entire pregnancy journey, to my labor, and to my delivery, and now having my baby girl Caris. I will just never forget anything, and it was just an amazing moment in my life. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys on my next video. Bye guys. Mwah. Love you. Do you guys want to see Caris? You gotta be quiet though, because she's taking a nap, so shh. This is Caris. Oh, her eyes are open. Hi, baby. Say hello. 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 Okay, she went back to bed. Good night, everybody.